So, Hare Krishna, we welcome all devotees for this most auspicious celebration of uh, Ramnavmi festival 2022. So, uh, it is my fortune to be able to share something and speak some whatever I have learned from others on this great festival. So, we just be repeating some points. I had the chance to share something on the same occasion. It will be audible now.
Yes, Prabhuji, better.
In fact, I'm using a condenser mic, so for my purpose, so it will actually give you a much in the recording, and even now also. If once I remove this, then you will know the difference because of there was slight loose connection. Now it would be good. That's why it was switching between this microphone and the laptop microphone. Now it will be consistent. So thank you very much, all devotees, for gathering here virtually, and thank you to Atul Gaurang Prabhu for awarding this opportunity for sharing something. Will be very will Prabhu, till what time we can go? It's 6:15 at now. Till when we can go?
Prabhuji, 7 and later also, not a problem.
7:15.
10:15 is good, Prabhuji.
Okay, right. So, right. Anyway, so in our before we start with prayers, request everyone, if possible, if you are in that position, to turn on the videos so that it becomes uh, it's better for us, as we have experienced in virtual sessions. I'm not going to see you, and because I have not enabled that mode also, but if our video is on, we are more attentive for whatever reasons. So it's always good. So just my recommendation, I say it every time. Hare Krishna. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. श्री रामचंद्र भगवान की जय. श्री रामनवमी महामहोत्सव की जय. Krishna. So let us I'll share my screen, and let us start with a small invocation verse. We'll not be reciting the verse, but just the translation, and you'll know the reason why. So I hope you can see my screen. So this is a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th canto, 10th chapter, verse number 4. So it's like a long verse, and the meter is also slightly different, so we won't be reciting it. But can someone unmute and read the translation?
Yes, Prabhuji, I'll read it.
Yes, bro, sure.
To keep the promise of his father intact, Lord Ramachandra immediately gave up the position of king and, accompanied by his wife Mother Sita, wandered from one forest to another on his lotus feet, which were so delicate that they were unable to bear even the touch of Sita's palms. The Lord was also accompanied by Hanuman, or by another monkey, Sugriv, king of monkeys, and by his own younger brother, Lord Lakshman, both of whom gave him relief from the fatigue of wandering in the forest. Having cut off the nose and ears of Shurpanakha, thus disfiguring her, the Lord was separated from Mother Sita. He therefore became angry, moving his eyebrows and thus frightening the ocean, who then allowed the Lord to construct a bridge to cross the ocean. Subsequently, the Lord entered the kingdom of Ravan to kill him like a fire devouring a forest. May that Supreme Lord Ramachandra give us all protection. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu, for reading. So basically, what this verse is, this is the full Ramayana in one paragraph. If any of you failed to notice, now check that verse again. This is complete Ramayana in one verse. So that's the reason I have chosen this verse as our invocation, right? So just remember, if you're taking some notes, then also note down this number. You can keep it for memorization later. So this is 9.10.4. It's like a one paragraph summary of Ramayana with an invocation for may that Supreme Lord Ramchandra give us all protection. And there are even more verses in fifth canto also. There is a section where Hanuman prays, and there are many other options, many other prayers and verses. So that was about this verse. Let me, now I won't be sharing any screen and all because yeah. Hare Krishna. So this won't be any lecture or something. We'll be just sharing certain lessons that Ramayana teaches us, and there are many lessons that Ramayana teaches us actually. So I'll try to take some inputs also from your side. So please respond also. Yeah, by mistake, I guess. So before we begin with any kind of lessons, I've just listed down 4 or 5 points to take away today, and please share with please be present with an open mind so that we can actually churn out and bring out certain good lessons and make certain shift, make certain resolution today, because festivals are actually supposed to are actually meant to transform our hearts, and our hearts will be transformed when we take certain action, and that will only happen uh, when we are like when we learn from it with an open mind, and whenever we have certain doubt or whatever, we actually ask, we clarify, rather than becoming a passive one way learning. So please keep that in mind. So I have one icebreaker question, that why should we read Ramayana or Mahabharat and Mahabharat, whatever, and not anything else? By anything else, I mean fiction. So many novels, so many bestseller, no crime thriller novels or no fiction novels, and this and that. So many are there in the market, and yes, many times. In India, especially, people are getting very much hooked, especially to novels and crime fiction and etc. And those kinds of some kind of horror thrillers, some kind of romantic novels, etc. People get hooked onto, and that shift has come in India also. So, any inputs on why should we read Ramayana and Mahabharata and not this? Anyone would like to share something, anything?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji talks about our ancient glories, ancient heritage, and of our country, nation. So we have to be feel proud of that. and also at the same time a lot of learnings how for everyone, starting from administrator and housewife to your family person. It is every components, ingredients to learn from this scripture.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, Niladri Prabhu, for sharing. So one of the things that we need to remember and be very clear of. Please listen to this. I was hearing it from Govind Prabhu long before. There were no novels in India ever before, because we had Ramayana and Mahabharata and so many Puranas, 18 Puranas. Puranas are full of stories. You might have seen that stack of Puranas kept in say Mayapur, some Namhat and other like big bookstores, devotional bookstores. Like stories from Vamana Purana, stories from Narsimha Purana, stories from so many. It's like a huge thing. So there was never a lack or dearth of stories and fiction and those kinds of things in our Vedic system, and that's why there was no need. And then he explained that this system of writing novels and fictions and fictional stories. Fiction means it's untruth, right? It's like self-created. It's a work of our own minds. They actually this concept originated from the West. It's not an Indian concept, right? So from there it is coming to India now, and that's why these people like Prem Chand and all those you might have heard. Mm, from them it has actually come and become now at this point become quite widespread in India also. So why the heck we have any need to create new stories about say some Nagas or this and that? There are so many popular authors. I'll take names like Amish and this and that, etc. And who are writing fiction. It's bestseller and all the youth is hooked to them. But the point is, novels and fictions, we already had so much in our Vedic system that we never needed to create some artificial mental some stories of our own mental creation, or worse, stories of romance or lust, sex related. And ultimately, why those kinds of novels exist? It is just to vent out those uh, primal tendencies, those baser instincts of the author itself, right? So the author has that problem, the impurities in the heart, and he wants to express it out by writing it in the form of a. It is called as romantic, but ultimately it's lust, right? So to be very honest, considering the Shastric version, because this is a spiritual section and scriptures are very, very strong. Bhagavatam is extremely strong in its administering uh, the truth. So that is the first concept before we even start digging into any kind of lesson. So please make a note of it, and that in this life there's no need to ever read any Chacha Chaudhary or whatever that we might have even remotely heard and popular in our ways and all. Just if you want to feel like reading stories, there are tons, there are ample in our Puranas. There is Harivamsh Puran, there is this Puran, there is uh, Mahabharata itself has 1 lakh verses. And the best thing about it is, this is not written by a mortal. These are compiled and written by the literary incarnation of Krishna, which is Vyasdev himself. So that's why it carries potency. So just hearing them is purifying. That's one thing. Second thing is it also has lessons. It also has lessons, and the lessons are presented in a very amazing. Lessons are delivered in very powerful dialogue format in very amazing through the past times and all. So it's like never ending. Lessons are unlimited for our lives, right? So that is the first thing. Please remember that we never have any need, and it will never be. No, those people who are reading other novels, if at all they could do that kind of scrutinizing study and even critical study, if they are on the atheistic side, to just to test the principles, they would derive a lot of value from it. So thankfully, Bhagavad Gita is something which is very popular throughout the whole world, and even amongst Western and all kinds of philosophers. But Ramayana and Mahabharat, people miss out the Mahabharat, but ultimately Bhagavad Gita is coming as a part of climax of Mahabharat. At the peak, at the pinnacle, at the climax of Mahabharat is Bhagavad Gita. So we have to just backtrack and go and read Mahabharat, and even backtrack one more yuga and read the Ramayana, right? Why the difference? What is the purpose here is, uh, Srimad Bhagavatam, like even Prabhupada wanted to translate Ramayana and Mahabharata, but he did not have time. So he gave the most essential ones. But given he had more time, Prabhupada would have done that. So that is very, very important, because Srimad Bhagavatam, listen to this. Srimad Bhagavatam talks about leaving, Leave, leaving this world, right? But before leaving, we have to first know how to live. So leaving comes later, and first comes living, how to live in this world. And that living is taught by Ramayana and Mahabharata. That's why Lord enacted that drama in Ramayana, especially Lord Ramchandra went through all those painful and hard times just to make that point that that's how human life is meant for tapasya, and many other points Lord is teaching through his examples. So that is very, 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 very important, that we understand this distinction, that we can read coincide one, but at least we should uh, know everything about it. So it's always recommended that we understand this deeper spiritual principle. Just that one section in Mahabharata of Yaksha Prashna, that itself is so philosophical and deep that it can take days of discussion to understand and churn all that. So we have to learn both how to live so that we can live peacefully. And that is the reason that Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the Amala Purana, which is the essence of all scriptures, what what does it contain? Srimad Bhagavatam has episodes from Mahabharata. First canto is all episodes from Queen Kunti, Ashwathama, departure of Bhishma Dev. Ultimately, it's teaching through the episodes of Mahabharata. Ninth canto is full of Ramayana. Now, just the verse that we discussed, that was in Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So it's interconnected, but we go in that sequence of first learning how to live, and that's why the problem happens. If we go too high, then we are not able to relate. Spiritual life becomes non-relatable to us. We think that those concepts are too high. Why? Because we are directly thinking about living, which is very important. And it is not that unless we have completed this, we cannot read this. That's not the point. We can simultaneously do Srimad Bhagavatam reading and Ramayana and Mahabharata also. But the point is to do it, right? That's the very, very important first thing. We have read the invocation verse. So no, if we just not talk about basics, if we just have a bird eye view of Ramayana, the first lesson, lesson number one, which is very obvious, that comes, as I said, Lord Ram is enacting that drama to teach us many, many things. So one of the obvious reasons is patience, 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 dharya. And this theme is repeated throughout. There is a reason same concept is spoken by Rup Goswami in Updeshamrit. Utsahat Nishchayat Dhairyat. Dhairyat. Why we are talking about patience? Because especially in today's times, when just a few clicks on the phone and we get food, Swiggy, Zomato. Just few clicks on the phone, we can even get a refrigerator at our home in a few days. You don't have to go out via Amazon. Everything is at the fingertips. There is instant this, there is ready to eat food, there is ready to eat this, there is instant coffee, there are vending machines, there is this and that. Everything is getting quicker and quicker and faster. And this is very dangerous, because it is reducing, and it is coming at the expense of the quality of patience in all of us. Now, as we know that we are somehow stuck up in this material world, and there are two approaches to this world. One is called as the hotel approach. The second is called as the hospital approach, right? So first thing is, some people see this world like a hotel. That means it is for my enjoyment. No, I can order whatever I want from the menu card, and I'll get it and I'll enjoy. Second is the hospital approach, that this is for my treatment and I'm a patient here, right? And a patient has to be patient. Let me repeat that. A patient has to be patient, and we are all patients. So it's very, very important to have this quality. Where did Lord Ram demonstrate this quality of patience? Yes. Anyone remembers that specific instance or incidents from Ramayana where Lord Ram demonstrated this quality of extreme patience?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, bro.
Yes, Prabhu. So he was going to be coronated as king, and as soon as he heard that now he's going to go to the forest, and so there was no change in his personality. There was no reaction or anything. So he very cool, very calm, very patiently he accepted, and he went away.
In fact, this exact same point that you said, I had written up also in my notes, that there was literally no reaction, no reaction. He had that, kept that straight face when he heard that news. So that is, you know, of course, that one behavior actually demonstrates many qualities, not just patience. It also demonstrates his wow, is keeping the word. Raghukul Reet Sada Chali Ai, Prana Jai Par Vachan Na Jai. Right. So it has always been like that. And yes, another instance that I remember is that 4 months of Chaturmas, if you remember that episode from Ramayana, when it was raining and Lord Ram could not continue. The search for Sita was discontinued, and he was just weeping and crying in those 4 months. Because of the rain, he could not actually. The search was discontinued, and they could not do anything. But if we see in the overall picture, it was just a period of 1 year, right? I think 9 to 10 or 12 months before they could, invade the Lanka and kill Ravan. And after that, Lord Ram ruled for 17,000 years. So yes, patience actually pays its rewards also. So what is 1 year of that painful tapasya compared to 17,000 years of rule? So if we just zoom out and see that complete picture, yes, he taught that quality of patience. And of course, when those 4 months were going on, and when that search for Sita was going on, every day was like 12 years. That's another thing. That's another poetic aspect of that. That yes, every day was like 12 years or so, or millions of years, because of that separation. But then, yes, eventually things were, uh, as we say, live happily ever after. This is the original one. And of course, Lord and his consort are eternally happy. And if there is apparently some sadness, that is because they have enacted some drama for us to give certain lessons. So that is the lesson number one: patience. Because we are patient, and a patient has to be patient. So uh, and that's why Rup Goswami clubs this quality with enthusiasm, because generally, if we say patience, then we tend to go on extreme, and the extreme of patience can be laziness, not or inaction, right? Not taking any action. I'm just patient. I'm not doing anything, just sitting. So that's another thing. That's why Rup Goswami is very intelligent enough to club patience with enthusiasm. Utsahat, Nishchayat, and Dhairyat. So, right, enthusiasm, determination. As soon as we say enthusiasm, yes, I'm ready. As soon as we say Utsahat, yes, let's jump, go for a skydive. And immediately he kinds of douses that fire by patient, calm down, relax, take deep breaths, right? So that's why this combo works magic. Anyone in the extreme, and yes, there are times when we need more of something. Sometimes we need more of enthusiasm, sometimes we need more of determination, but there has to be always that quality of patience. Second, of course, these are like unlimited lessons, and this is just something, everything is a lesson. So, like, there is no hard and fast rules that only these are the lessons. I just picked up something that I like, and yeah, it's Lord Ram's appearance day, and we are discussing Ram Katha, so that's great. Second is very important. Um, I'll call it as develop Vivek. Second lesson is develop Viveka. What is Vivek? Viveka means discrimination, the tendency or the ability to discriminate right from the wrong, when to do what, when to go with the flow, when to go against the flow, when to keep quiet, when to speak, when to be aggressive, right? So that Viveka is very, very important. Discrimination is very, very important. And it is so important that a great devotee called King Kulshekhar Alwar, in his Gokulmala Stotra, he very interestingly presents this concept of Viveka or discrimination in a verse that says, Andhasya me rita vivek mahadhanasya chaure prabhu balibir indriya namadhyeye moh andhakoop kuhure vinipati tasya devesh dehi kripanasya karavalambam. Right? It's a very, very amazing verse, and let's break it down for you. It says, Andhasya means what is blind? Andhasya. May Rita. Rita means stealing, right? Rita. Rita means stealing. Andhasya me Rita Viveka. No, the ability to discriminate has been stolen. Andhasya me Rita Viveka Mahadhanasya. Now, note this. Vivek, or the ability to discriminate, is referred to here as Mahadhan, the great wealth. And not talking high concepts. We are not talking Krishna Prem. We are not talking some rasas or all. We're talking very down to earth, relatable concepts here, because that's where all problems began. We lost our Vivek. We lost our ability to discriminate. That's why we fell for this material world. Andhasya me rita viveka mahadhanasya. This great wealth of ability to discriminate is stolen. By whom? Chaure Prabhu Balibhir Indriya Namadhyeye. These, my ability, if I have to put it in one sentence, my ability to discriminate has been stolen by highway robbers of these five senses. Andasme Rita Viveka Mahadhanasya. Chaure Prabhu Balibhir Indriya Namadhyeye. These five senses have stolen my ability to discriminate. That's how powerful it is. That's why the second lesson is develop Vivek. Now, just to further impress upon this concept, Lord Ram or Lord Vishnu or any incarnation of Lord, they always have four things, right? Shankha, Chakra, Gada, and Padma, right? You always find Shankha, Chakra, Gada, and Padma. So, can anyone give me some idea on why, like Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma? What is the point? Which is for what? He's God, right? So he could carry some nice, say, maybe candle, or maybe some nice jewelry or etc. But why Shankh, Chakra, Gada, and Padma? Why like that? And the answer has to be a verse of Bhagavad Gita. So who can answer that?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, Paritranaaya sadhuna vinashaya cha dushkritam.
Thank you. You got it spot on. So that's the answer. यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानम् अधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहं परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृताम् धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे. Lord always carries these four things. Shankha and Padma is for devotees. Shankha and Padma, conch shell and lotus is for devotees, and Gada and Chakra is for annihilating, killing the demons. So even Lord is playing both the roles. If it is God, if he is God, someone would say God has to be so quiet and serene. But yes, notice Vivek, Lord is not just one-sided. He is actually teaching us just by his posture that when we have to act aggressive and annihilate when things go against the religious principles and take action, and when we have to be serving, when we have to be calm and in that another opposite mode. So Shankha Chakra Gada Padma is actually representing that concept of, again in a way, the concept of Vivek. So it is interconnected, and Lord Ram also exhibited both of his qualities, although he was not in 400 form, and his primary motive was Maryada Purushottam, right? So because of being Maryada Purushottam, he actually came to set Maryada, to set the religious principles. Lord Krishna was Purna Purushottam, so he played a different role. So we can learn many things from Lord Krishna, but we cannot imitate in many things that Lord Krishna did. But most of the things what Lord Ram did, we can follow, because he was Maryada Purushottam. So that is the second important lesson that we can develop. Be very very strong. Not let our faith and our spiritual foundations be hijacked by our senses in the form of distractions, in the form of media, in the form of smartphones, in the form of any no anything that affects and disturbs our bhakti, right? This is the practical breakdown of this concept. How do we protect our viveka? How do we protect and actually sharpen our ability to discriminate? By reading Prabhupada books, by hearing from great souls, by hearing a lot from those who have already been through what we are going through, right? That's the best way to reduce our learning and learn things fast, right? So that's the way we can not just protect our ability to discriminate, that is our viveka, but also sharpen it using by engaging in hearing and reading. So please make a note of that. That's the second thing. Third point, which is also connected to, or third lesson that we can actually bring out from Ramayana, I'll say it in the form of a sentence that I heard it from one of the lectures of Shikshastam Prabhu. You can even note it down. I'll say it slowly. I love this sentence. It's absolutely gold, and it will, hit some chords inside. Bulb on moment it will be for you, right? When I say that. So I heard that when he said that we plan our future seeing our present, but Lord plans our present seeing our future. I'll repeat it. We plan our future seeing or based on our current situation, right? For example, if I am poor right now, I plan my future so that I don't remain poor, I don't remain broke, I arrange for finances, etc., etc. But we cannot see our future. What we can see is only our present, and that's why we prepare for our future based on our present. But Lord can see our future, and he knows our future, and that's why Lord plans our present seeing our future. And that's when things get, you know that's why we get doubt, that's why we get sometimes bewildered, that why this is happening to me, why a bad thing happened to good people like me, now why, etc. Such kinds of thoughts start coming to us. But when those kinds of thoughts come, we can always remember that Lord already sees and he's knowing my future, and that's why he is arranging this kind of present so that my future will be improved, right? So that is like, a persistent theme also when we study Ramayana. So many things were like disastrous. I mean, abducting of Sita was like a breaking apart of like sky fallen on earth. It was a disaster thing. But then how things unfolded, Lord Ram would not have made those friendships with the monkey army. So many great qualities of uh, you know uh, uh, other monkey soldiers, Vanara's army, not monkey actually. Vanara is not equal to monkey. So would not have come up. No, so many new connections and relationships would not have been formed. The glory of Hanuman would not have been revealed to the world. The glory of Jambavan, the glory of Jatayu would not have been revealed to the world if, you know, Lord Ram's exile would have continued like a pleasure trip. Nothing of this could have happened. So yes, immediately for that period of time, it was a disaster. But then within that period of 1 year, so many great and good things came about, which we sing and study and with great pleasure, which we discuss as Ramayana. So how interesting is that, right? So let us always remember that we plan our future. Yeah, that's what we can do, and that's what we should do, because that's practical. That's what is in our hands. But when sometimes things go opposite to what we plan, which eventually it happens for everyone, then we should remember that yes, it is to bring out something good, something much better than what I do not understand at this point. So that is the point number 3. Please uh, remember it. It's very, very powerful. Fourth concept which we can learn from Lord Ram is, and then after this will be last. I don't want to make it very heavy and something. I'm presenting it very crisp. Is bringing out the best in others. That's the fourth concept we can learn from Lord Ram. Bringing out the best in others by our behavior. By our behavior. So if I act wrongly, whose mistake is that? Of course, it is my mistake. No doubt about it. If I did some misbehavior, if I acted in a wrong way, it's my mistake. Now, I don't know how much percent, we cannot put a percentage to it because it varies from situation to situation. But because I acted on that free will, it's my mistake, no doubt about it. But the opposite person that brought out that misbehavior from me also has a role to play. This is might be a slightly, you know, uh, not so traditional concept that we hear. We think that okay, I shouted at someone, it's my mistake. Yeah, but I'm telling you a subtle nuance of this is we also might have role to play. Say if there is fighting, and as we say, we cannot clap by one hand. So doesn't matter the volume of the clap, no, but both hands have to be involved for the sound to come. So once we know this concept, we should act in a way that we bring out the best in others. Like if someone is sitting peacefully and he's a good person, and we go and we just like nudge and hey, how is it doing? Hey, hey, and we just kind of unnecessarily start irritating or annoying that person, and that person shouts at us. Uh, Get the just get lost. Don't disturb me, and maybe gets wild or something. Now, whose mistake is there? We can say, no, see how badly this person behaved. But who brought it out? We did. We were the trigger. We were the initiator. Just to give an extreme example so that you can understand. Opposite of this, if someone is, very aggressive and we can act in a way to calm them down. We can act in a way that brings out the good qualities in others. Now, for example, Lord Ram, now, just by his being present, he brought out that glory of Hanuman. No, Jambavan is especially Jambavan is very very famous for this, for reminding Hanuman of his power. But no one glorifies Jambavan in all of Ramayana. In all of Ramayana, we don't talk about much about Jambavan except that he was an old retired soldier and all that. And that's the reason, like Shubhavilas Prabhu also writes, we need a lot of Jambavans, like people in leadership positions who can bring out the best in others and not take the credit. Like no one literally knows, but everyone only glorifies Hanuman, and which is all worth it. Hanuman is Lord Hanumanji is the greatest and the most humblest devotee of Lord Ram, but who reminded him of his powers and forgot? No, that was Jambavan. And that is the concept number 4, that we act in a way that we bring out the best in others rather than bringing out the worst in others by our actions, by our behaviors, etc. And Lord Ram has done it a lot of many times. He brought out the best in Sugriv. He brought out the best in so many people by solving Sugriva's problem, long-standing problem of Vali being tortured by Vali. Vali used to, like you know there are stories about how Vali used to trouble Sugriv. Like 4 or 5 every day used to do the Sandhya Vandan 3 times, and every time, because Wali had that curse in that particular tract of land where he could not touch. If he touch his feet there, then the curse would act and he would like die or something. So Sugriva had taken shelter in that place, but still Wali, while doing his Sandhya, he would or whatever, like he used to every day come and trouble and kick Sugriv on the head without touching his feet on that land. So Lord Ram, by killing Vali, actually brought out the best of Sugriva. Otherwise, Sugriva also was kind of, sometimes used to get notorious and get drunk and the typical Vanara tendencies. But then he fought with his full extreme valor. So that is a very strong, amazing concept. And yeah, like this is the one thing, and one of the, say, the last only for our session, but the lessons never end, is about association. No, avoiding wrong association, because that's where the Ramayana started, by mantra filling the backbiting, or whatever, uh, the ears of Kaikeyi. That's where the Ramayana actually. That's the origin of Ramayana. That's where all the drama actually began. That very 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 powerful. Avoiding wrong association. Now, why this is important? This is actually very critically important. You cannot just say it's not important. It's critically important. Now, we might say I don't have people like Mantra. I don't have people like or no whatever. You might say I know I have a friend circle, and no one backbites like that. Why should I give their association? Or okay, I am obliged to them. All that. So the point here is association. When I say avoiding wrong association, it's not physical association. Avoiding wrong association is not physical proximity. It's not just being away from each other or close to each other. The real association happens, is very very important. The actual association happens when there is a transfer of desires. Please make a note. Real association happens when there is a transfer of desires that take place. Now, you might be physically, say, going in some city bus and come across some drunkard, or maybe he just comes and sits beside you on a seat. Now, physically speaking, okay, you're associating with him, but actually, you technically you're not associating with him, because you're not adopting his qualities. You're not picking up his bad habits, right? You're just physically close. But the moment you pick up that bad habit, the moment someone actually starts drinking or say smoking or whatever the bad quality of the opposite person, then we can say that the association has happened. So When that happens, that can happen in any way. That can happen when we start hearing from them. That's one of the ways. When we start hearing, that's what was the mistake of Kaikeyi. She lended her ears to mantra. That was the biggest mistake. She gave submissive reception, submissive hearing to mantra, right? Although physically both were close, but she actually gave that submissive reception, and that same thing we have to use for hearing from our devotees and all. So submissively hearing without any judgment. So when we hear, say, someone who is drinking or smoking or whatever, he's actually convinced that it is very pleasurable, and with that conviction, when that person speaks, you have to try it once. It's actually amazing. And I get so much stress after my work and after my IT job, and just one gush or one cigarette actually relieves my mind instantly. I just feel so light and relaxed. Now he's actually feeling it because he's a smoker, he's addicted, but he's speaking with that conviction. Now, if we hear that from him submissively, that's when, and if it actually affects us, we think that, really, is that an element of truth in it? Should I just like maybe once or something? Once that thought comes, that means you have taken the association. So this is very, very, very important. Real association happens when there is a transfer of desires, transfer of habits. So we have to be very, very careful, and that was the origin of Ramayana. When Kaikai gave submissive reception, oral hearing to mantra, and slowly that poison. And the thing is, it happens so slowly that we just don't realize it, and it might even come up in some intellectual guard. That's why I'm saying we have to be very careful while choosing our association. So that's it. We just pick these 5 lessons and we are sorted. Let's do it for next 1 year. The first one, patience. Because we are patients, Lord Ram exhibited it. And not just patience, a trio of patience, enthusiasm, and determination. Patience, enthusiasm, and determination. Second one was Viveka, developing ability to discriminate right from the wrong. Lord does it. When we study scriptures, when we hear and read regularly, we understand when to act strong, when to act aggressively. Now, remember, just to give one more example for this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. No, if you know Shikshashtakam, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has spoken a verse. Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnuna. We have to be as more tolerant than a tree, more humble than a blade of grass. No, imagine Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has spoken this verse. Same Chaitanya Mahaprabhu acted. Now, if you know that story of Kazi, when the Kazi, Chand Kazi broke the Mridanga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gathered all of Navadip and they actually marched with torches in their hands towards the house of Kazi with, slogans and shouts from the crowd, kill the Kazi, kill the Kazi. That same Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who's talking about being more humble than a blade of grass actually did this physical, strong, fiery revolution, and Kazi became a cat after that, became a devotee. So remember, Vivek, intelligence, and we have to protect our intelligence, our Vivek, ability to discriminate by choosing our input very carefully. The videos that we watch, the whatever, the news that we hear, etc. And we have to sharpen it by reading and hearing more. Third one, I spoke a statement that faith. The third one is actually about faith. That we plan our future, seeing our present, but Lord knows better. Lord is seen, and that's why sometimes when things go against our plans, we should remember that something good will be for us. So that's about faith, the third lesson. Fourth one was about bringing out the best in others, and we discussed many different examples for this. That how we can actually bring out the best in others. We talked about Jambuan, how he selflessly, without taking credit, brought out the best in Hanuman, reminded him of his powers, and took the back seat. And the last one was about uh, avoiding the wrong association, which was the origin of Ramayana. And the real association happens by when there is a transfer of habits and desires, which we have to be very, very careful of. So we can be physically around people, but we have to be very careful to have an intimate, open talk. Unless we are in that strong position to influence them, unless our reading and hearing are that strong that we are in that position to convince them or whatever, because until you scratch the surface of someone, we don't know. When you just start talking with any person, when they start speaking, then we understand what you know variety of khichadis of philosophies people have. So that was those were the some beautiful lessons. I hope you have taken certain notes, and we also discussed some other points that we need not study any other novels, fiction, romance, thriller, crime. Just if you were doing it, or if you had, if you come across them, just ditch it. Open Ramayana, read it for story. If you have that craving to read stories, read from Puranas, read Mahabharata. No, read Krishna Dharma Prabhu's Mahabharata. No, he literally describes it like a Hollywood movie. That's amazing. Like, of course, if you want to read full details of Mahabharata, then there is a like there are other alternatives also where you can go verse by verse, but the way he describes, that also fulfills our those tendencies to had the kind of action. So let us pray today that this amazing, beautiful uh, Lord Ramchandra, who is Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is literally a unifying thread for all of India, literally not just India, abroad. You know, if you just check out the addresses of and streets now, Indonesia is the biggest, like one of the biggest Muslim countries at today at this point in the world. Indonesia is like I mean, I heard the maximum number of mosques are there in Indonesia, but what are the addresses of just Google it about Indonesia? No, Sri Ram Gali or something like that. I don't remember the details, but Indonesia has so much Ramayana inside that city. There are so many, like you will find deities of Garuda. There they have Garuda Airlines, as their airlines. One of the and there are temples also, if I'm not wrong, and so many things like that. The biggest temple of Lord Vishnu as of now, until TOVP comes, is in Cambodia. It's not in India. And there's so many, if you just study many times, it keeps coming on WhatsApp and some places, like some remains of Ramayana or some kind of mural, some kind of sculpture depicting the Ramayana stories found in this particular country, found in that particular, archaeological site, and this and that. So it's not just an India thing. What is India? India is nothing. India is a Western word. No, it's actually Mahabharat. Mahabharat. That's what our Bharat Varsha was there. If you study fifth canto, you'll find details. So it's very, very powerful. And trust me, Ramayana is something which is absolutely amazing if you can study that. So it's very, very endearing that we are really fortunate to be discussing this most beautiful, poetic, action filled with all the rasas. All rasas are there in Ramayana to satisfy our desires, to satisfy any jiva with fullest. We have Virya Ras, we have Madhurya Ras, we have Sakya Ras, we have every kind of rasa in Ramayana, right? So let us pray to Lord Ram today to protect our Viveka, to give us that intelligence to follow our spiritual path in every circumstance, in any circumstance, and be very strong, true to our word. Like we might complain, as I said, like avoiding wrong association. Last point. So we might said, I have bad association. No, it's very hard for me to practice. There is no temple in my city, even in there is no temple in my city also, right? So like we talk that there is no favorable association. Now imagine Vibhishan. Vibhishan was in 24-hour CCTV surveillance of no Lanka's surveillance system. Imagine what favorable association Vibhishan had. His association, biggest association was Ravan, his own brother. No, what can be more unfavorable situation uh, for any devotee to practice? But still, Vibhishan was untouched. Vibhishan was loyal to Lord Ram. Imagine. So that's an extreme example. So that is a very, very powerful and unifying thread. And let us pray to Lord Ram to give us that intelligence, protect our faith, as we said, protect our faith very strongly, and let us clarify all our doubts that we have related to with our seniors and all. And like recently, lockdown is opening up at this point, right? Finally, so let us pray to Lord Ram so that he can open that lockdown of which our soul is locked inside this body. And if you just see, interestingly enough, Lord Ram actually liberated so many people from their lockdowns. This topic of lockdown is come, right? One example, the main story of Rama and Sita. Sita was locked down in Lanka. Lord Ram liberated or freed Sita from that lockdown in Lanka. Ahilya was locked down in that stone. Lord Ram freed from Ahilya from that curse, released her from that lockdown. Sugriva was locked down is in his own kingdom, by Wali, as we discussed. He freed Sugriva from that lockdown. So, in that spirit of, hopefully COVID departure, let's pray to Lord Ram to release our uh, contaminations that are locking us and not letting bring out those spiritual qualities out, and protect our faith by following these 4 or 5 uh, lessons that we have discussed today. And let's pray that we can follow in his footsteps and pick up a fraction of teachings that Lord is teaching us through his example. Shri Ramachandra Bhagwan ki jai. Shri Maryada Purushottam Ramchandra Bhagwan ki jai.
Jai.
रामचंद्र आविर्भाव तिथि महामहोत्सव की जय। श्री
Jai.
महाराज की जय।
Jai.
Jai.
Anybody has any comments, any pastime you want to share? We can do that for next 5 minutes. Any comments?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Very delighting lecture of Ramayana. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Naman. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the wonderful learning. Prabhuji was really nourishing to just hear the 5 wonder of yours. Thanks, Prabhuji, a lot.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the wonderful session and for your 5 teachings. I'll definitely follow these 5 teachings in my day-to-day life. Thank you very much.
Okay, Prabhu. So, Navendra Prabhu, should we wind up?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you so much for taking our time, and we humbly request you to keep giving us your association, and thank you so much for enlightening us
Thank you,
of
Prabhu.
the teachings
Yes,
of Ramayana. We look forward to your association in future as well. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. We'll chant one round. We'll chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra and thank Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare
Dandavat
Krishna.
Pranam.